everyone, it's Cindy and welcome back to Studioloo. So today I'm here to show you how to use hand spun art yarns to amp up your ephemera and make it even more cool. So the reason that I'm doing this is because so I've had Studioloo since about the year 2000. I've always been an artist, but I really kind of found my way for my business initially in the spinning of art yarns and hand spun art yarns. And essentially what an art yarn is defined as just a yarn that's not just utilitarian, right? It's something that you can make more artful pieces with. You can allow the yarn to be the art that creates the imaginative aspect of your work. So, you know, for instance, I will spin beads like this into my yarns. I've spun all sorts of different kinds of yarns. I've spun yarns that have been political. I've spun yarns that have been, you know, weird, scary, you know, a lot of different adjectives people use to talk about them. But there's a few aspects to spinning art yarn that make me really happy. I think it's another one of those things that you can experience storytelling through. Like, you know, what does this say to you? You know, this sparkly trim, these are little like sequined berry kind of things, and they've been spun in here. There's sheep's locks and there's hints of green and this pink, and this is a merino wool and silk that this is spun into. So these are my bits and bobs and leftovers of yarns that I've spun. You know, do you see a monarch butterfly here? Like, you know, so there's things like this that can be really fun and special to kind of explore, and we can bring them into the paper art world as well. So that's my objective today, to just kind of show you in a simple way how to amp up your ephemera with some yarn, because it's not too bulky, and you can, you know, you can get any kind of yarn. It doesn't have to be hand spun and it doesn't have to be art yarn, but that's kind of my specialty. So I wanted to focus on that. I also think it has an element that's a little bit more fun and magical than just your utilitarian or your commercially produced yarn. So in this case, like I've just crocheted a simple stitch around a bangle bracelet that I got at a thrift store, and I made a lot of Christmas ornaments with these, where I actually took bookbinding string and wrapped it across, you know, in a bunch of different directions, and I wove the whole circle, and then I would hang it on a tree. These ones I left as rings. I plan to use them probably on the front of journals and have a little, like, you know, a picture in the center here. Let's take him, this fairy, for instance, you know, and we put him in the center of this, and that could sit on a journal and you'd have this beautiful frame. So simple needlework techniques for people who aren't experienced, bulky, beautiful yarn to help you, you know, find your way with fiber art if you're not experienced. And I do sell yarns in my shop, as well as little packets of these little bits and bobs of yarn. I do have a few there, but I'm actually in the process right now of kind of getting preparation done for upcoming like yarn and fiber arts kind of shows, which usually happen in the summer, and I maybe, depending on the world situation, be able to take part in a few of them. So yeah, let's jump in, get started, and see what I can do here. So I've already prepared a couple of things to just kind of get our minds in this mindset, right? So the first thing I'm looking at is just color. So here we have this bird is, you know, flying away with this poor little man, and these girls are holding on to him for all their might. So for me, the themes that I use in my books, typically this wouldn't really fit in a whole lot with the theme. So in this case, I chose this brown yarn. This is alpaca and Cotswold and what's the Teeswater lamb, and it is plied with a silk yarn. So we have this little nest, and I'm just telling you the materials, the different kinds of sheep, because some of you might be interested. Most of my fiber arts viewers are interested. So what I'm thinking instead is I want to change the depiction to what might be going on here. Actually hide the little man, maybe have the bird in this nest, and have these little girls trying to climb up into the nest with the bird. You know, it just changes the whole aspect of the story we're telling. We can add some word snippets to that. We can tell our own story. And then here we have this fairy holding on to a hen. And I forget what's happening in this story for real, but you know, I'm not terribly fond of the hen. I may cover that up with something, but what I was thinking about is just having some green yarn just kind of hanging about here and there to just add some nice like texture to this. And so with this yarn, you can glue it on with a 3-in-1 or a fabric glue like Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Fix. And you know, you can also staple it on. You can definitely put a staple through this. You can also stitch it on with your sewing machine. So I thought what I would do is maybe just, you know, select a yarn for all of these different pre-made pieces of ephemera that I've made. So I think I'll do that first. I'll just kind of select a yarn for each of them. So I made these kind of in my Tuesday 10 format. Like I literally sat down and did a Tuesday 10 without you, but it wasn't Tuesday, and I'm going to do one for you, I promise. So this one, I think this beautiful gray yarn would really complement this. So I'm going to just snip a bit off the skein. Now, normally, for all of you knitters out there who are looking at me in horror going, what is she doing cutting this skein of yarn and not like actually winding it? These are going to be used for paper craft, so I don't have to. So the term skein literally just means you've got, when you spin yarn, you end up, it's on a bobbin or like a roll, right? I guess that's the best way to explain it. I would pick up one of my bobbins, but they're not here right now. But you know, imagine a shape like this, but a little thinner in the middle, and your yarn, when you spin it, wraps around. So what you end up with is a spool of yarn, and then we wind yarn onto something called a niddy noddy, which gives it like a figure 8 kind of shape, and then you end up with this giant loop of yarn. So I'll double this over and I'll show you. We wind a skein by turning our hands kind of like this, and then once you have enough twist, it's actually going to twist back on itself. So you slide the end of the loop through the end like this, and then you have what's called a skein. This one, it's hard to see, but this is the shape. So that being said, I think this gray yarn will definitely do something nice for this card. So let's set that one aside. Now here we have some oranges and reds, and this one as well, reds and oranges. So I think for this one, I'm going to use kind of this monarch butterfly type colored yarn. It's oranges and yellows, and it has little hints of this silvery gold kind of silk in it. It's just a beautiful fiber. So I think what I'll do, I'll just snip the end of this here. We'll cut through all of these, and I will grab maybe 2 strands and just kind of get a decent amount here. And that's what I'm going to allow myself for decorating this card, because see, it really goes well. And then we need something for this one, and I'm going to go with this yarn for this one, I think. Or is it just a little too much red? Maybe we need something to tame it down a little. Maybe some of this gold and pink. And in this yarn, I've spun this lock. I could incorporate that as well. So if we go and we unwind the skein, and then we'll just, we'll get the section that has the lock in it. And there we go. We'll add this. But then I think I also want a little more of this gold and some salmony pink as well. So I'll take 2 more strands, not too long because we don't want to bulk this up too much. So this is what we're going to add to this one. So again, you're creating palettes, right, as we go. So this has cooler colors, blues, greens. The selection of yarn I have, I've got a little bit of green here and white, so I will go with this. it's probably a good idea if you're doing this kind of technique, start yourself off with just like a nice full rainbow kind of palette of yarns if you can. You can typically find from hand spinners, you know, who do make mini kind of yarn packs. You can typically find nice color gradient packs to work with, because, you know, knitters, crocheters, weavers, etc. do a lot of different projects with smaller amounts of yarn. So this isn't something that's totally alien or anything. You'll be able to find things like that probably on Etsy or whatnot. So I'm trying to decide. I think I almost want to use this one again for this because the colors just go so nicely. So let's grab this, because honestly this kind of reminds me of like her hair too. So these will go together. Okay, so now this one, I have to think about what I want to use. Maybe this would look really neat on this one, I think, and we could glue that down nicely. So I'll just take like a bit of extra yarn for this one. So that will be with that bird. Then we have this lovely girl in a tree. We've got yellows. I think the brown might be nice in this one to kind of, maybe some yellow from this. So I'll just take the yellow out of this orange and yellow yarn, and then I'll take some of the brown from the other yarn. Incorporate the colors that are already there. Okay, and then some pink, I think, for this one. Would be nice, some like light pink to kind of match these little blossoms back here, and maybe a little bit of yellow or green, maybe some green in this one too. So we'll just make a little palette with that. This one, she's sort of got this like long reddish, it's actually kind of similar to this color here, so let's make use of that as inspiration, and maybe a little bit of white because we've got some swans kind of flying behind her. So that will be a good palette for that. A bit of tealy blue might be nice too, but I don't have any. Also green because the grass. And this is like a Little Red Riding Hood kind of scene. I'm going to go with some rugged brown here, just channeling that wolf and that tree. Okay. And then this one, I'm thinking a little bit of pink, light pink and green. Just channeling the same colors. Maybe even a bit of this, this brown here. There we go. Let's do those instead. We don't necessarily need green with that one. Okay, so we've chosen all the yarns for the palettes. So I'll get the yarns out of my way here. Just move them out of the way. So now we can start to focus a little bit on what we want to do and how we want to do it. I definitely know I'm going to need my Fabrifix or whatnot here. Okay. So I'm thinking in a lot of cases, you know, using this as a topper for like, you know, a tag situation will be really nice. So I think I might just kind of stack this one. You know, green would be nice to kind of create a tree at the top of this too. I'm wondering if, let me grab a little green. If I created like a bunch, like a bundle of green at the top, and then I just had some of the other colors like kind of hanging down, and then I stitch across it, that would probably look neat. So I'll just kind of wrap this yarn around my hand a few times and then just sort of tuck in the ends a bit, I think, and put that up here. And then I want to use a bit of this kind of, this is sheep's locks, so a little bit of that and a little bit of pink on the side. And I think what I might do, I'm trying to decide if I want to, I'll put a bit of glue down for this one, but I may probably still stitch this. I do think that this technique will probably work the best with an element of stitching. always, but I'm always recommending to people, if you don't have a sewing machine, get one. Even if you don't think you have the room or the money or whatever, just save and make space somehow if you're doing this kind of work, because honestly, it just opens up so many doors. And you can find like an inexpensive sewing machine, usually at the thrift store. Even ask around to people in your family or your friend groups, or post online, like in, a local Facebook group, and just say like, hey, I'm looking for this. I'm not a professional, but I'm looking for, I actually, myself, I ended up selling a couple of sewing machines that I kind of collected over the years, and, sold them on Facebook Marketplace for like $30 or something, because I just didn't need them anymore. So you may find people like that who just accumulated something and no longer need it, and that was my case. So this one, I think I just want to kind of have a few pieces just kind of hanging down. So this one I'm going to stitch. Let me stitch these two, and then I'll come back and show you what we're doing. Okay, so I've stitched around these two. So I've stitched this tree on with these nice colors coming down here. And on this one, I've stitched this on. Now I'm probably just going to trim it a little so we don't, sorry, these scissors are not for fabric, clearly, so that we don't lose our wolf friend there. Now, I haven't done a nice finishing stitch and trimmed all my anything yet, because I haven't backed these. So I'm going to wait until I've backed them, and then I'm going to do like a nice stitch around. But for now, I'm just setting up attaching the yarns. That's kind of the important thing at the moment. So this one, I had said I wanted to kind of use this here. So what I think I want to do with this one is just create a loop with glue, just sort of like this, where I want this to lay down. Then I'm going to create a loop with my yarn and just lie it on there and give it a bit of time to dry. And then, probably I will, definitely I will stitch over that as well. So for now, that's going to look like that. Then this one, maybe I'll do the same thing. I'll set up everything the same way, and then I'll stitch everything and show you at the end what everything looks like. So for this one, I think, let's channel the grass and the tree. So I think I'll make a couple of lines of glue here in this, maybe do 3, where we've got these little flowery bits and stuff like that going on. So we'll put these yarns in here, and I'm going to come back and trim them again. They're not going to stay as long as this. I think that's enough of that one for now. And then up here, I think I'll do like a little tangle of pink, or maybe just little bits. Let's see how that would look, just to kind of go along with the what we have going on up here. Just use Fabri-Tac, and I'm using kind of blobs of it, because see if I can just kind of fold the yarn into a little circle. Now that might be hard because this glue does not dry very quickly, so I'll probably have to come back and just trim. And the other thing to consider about yarns like this, there's going to be thin and thick spots, and that's been done on purpose to create texture in the yarn. So you can choose to say, okay, what I'm doing is a little more delicate. Let me go for a thinner little section of the yarn like this, because I can create like a tiny little coil, like this. I probably have this a little bit too long, actually. Let's do that. Just a little coil. And then I can lay that in the glue, and it will kind of keep its shape. And some of this I could see myself doing a bit of crazy like stitching on, to just add to the overall texture of this piece. And that's another reason that I'm going to be like backing these after stitching them, so that I will hide all the stitches underneath. So that I think is good. We could do something else down here if we wanted to, but I think I'm going to just keep that one like that. And then this one, I think I'm probably just going to do like a simple, like I did the last time, with just a little bit of this up here, and I might add what we have left over from this, yarn as well, but just this kind of gold bit. So I'll lay that like that. And then I'm not going to glue this one, I'm just going to stitch it. Okay, so I have stitched around all of these. I decided there was no point in really like sitting individually and showing you again me laying it out, because I already kind of explained the concept. So I thought I would just show you the final projects and how they turned out. So I backed everything. I did stitching around the edge. So my first set of stitching was to just secure the yarn. Sometimes I only glued, but I think I always kind of did like a little bit of stitching. I mean, I've done the whole thing. But anyways, this is the first one. So I used the green for the tree, and then these colors just kind of hanging down the side because they pull in the gold of her hair and the brown of the tree. And then this one, I used this brown. It's got some gold and maroon in it. I thought both the tree and the wolf, it just kind of went nicely there. I've left some strings. I've got like a maroon, brown, and teal in my sewing machine, and I just think that those colors look nice with this. And then on this one, I used colors that were, you know, in the card. So we've got lots of nice color here. And this one I kind of made like little pink flowers because that's what was there, and then added these as little blades of grass or a plant, and I just stitched down each of these pieces of yarn. These ones I wound into little circles and kind of fluffed them a bit and just stitched through. I backed everything and I hid all of the stitching. This one I went with the colors of these ribbons that were hanging down from where her hand is waving these swans off. So I used white and the same pink as is in these ribbons. And this one with this beautiful white deer, I just added some colors that were in the card. I've kind of done that all along the way, but this one I just kind of kept it up in the corner. I can see that being a really cute pocket in a journal, so I can kind of use this piece of paper as a bit of a preview to how, you know, that would look. Very, very cute, right? So yeah. Then this one, I did like a weaving technique, and I've done this before in journals with yarn. So basically when you lay your work down in your machine, let's say you're stitching this direction, you're just going to lay down your card. You lay a little bit of yarn, stitch past it, stop, put another bit of yarn to lay it across, stitch over it, bring it back up, stitch over it. So you're just creating like a yarn ruffle just by going kind of in like a snake kind of pattern. And then this one again with the colors, I think it looks really cute. And then this I think would make a really nice pocket. So with this one, it's kind of bulky, so I did stitch across it initially, and then I went around just the edge here. I didn't go back over it under the machine because it's already firmly attached. And I will just leave those hanging, so they could hang out the bottom of a journal, or I could put this as a top tuck so that the whole thing would stay inside the journal, and then this could kind of poke out the top. This one, lots going on this one. So I wanted to kind of bring some gold in because these ladies look very regal and you know, royal. And then this lock, this is a wood cut that was spun right into the yarn, and I used the pinks that are, you know, I think they're sort of in like the colors of the skin and in the colors of the flowers. So that came together nicely, I think. And it's kind of fun to have this lock here. And then this one, I pulled oranges and yellows because of the yellow flower. And I just kind of like swirled it back and forth and stitched across, and then stitched it down on the side. And this one is a gray yarn. I thought it went really nice with the gray, this gray image of this woman on a floral background. And this one I used the yarn to make this nest. This is the bulkiest of all of them, so I haven't backed it. I'll probably use it as a pocket because I think, you know, to stick it in and out of a pocket, it might be a little bulky. But this is a good kind of piece that you can add to the front page of a signature or to the inside cover of a book, because you've got more room in those places to add a little bulk without like making the pages, you know, unstable. And then this last one was this little fairy guy. In the original image, he was kind of like holding a hen sort of roughly. So I've added this fussy cut bird that I just need to ink around. And in this one, I added yarn in kind of a couple of ways. So one way, I added it as like little hanging sort of tassels in this pea plant. So it's like the little leaves that come down from the peas. And down here, this is almost like a macrame technique. I snipped the yarns short. Initially, I swirled them back and forth and stitched down, but it just felt too bulky. So I just snipped them a little bit short. And like, you know, right now I kind of feel like these ones actually could go a little bit shorter again. And yeah, so you know, you have the option once you've put everything down to give it a little haircut, to just kind of trim it up how you feel it works best. So that is my group of you know, ephemera. And so hopefully you will take a chance on using yarn if you can get it, hand spun art yarns. You know, I do carry them in my shop, but you can find a lot of really cool independent art yarn spinners out there. Probably there's some in your area if you look around. And yeah, that's it for me today. So I hope this inspires you to think of using yarn as a medium in your ephemera making. Have a lovely day, and thank you for tuning in. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would love it if you did. Bye for now.